Welcome back to the adventure. Today we're talking about how to safely use Windows Vista in 2022 and beyond. No operating system is perfect. Even with Windows 11, there's always the possibility of a security or data breach. Our goal here with Windows Vista is to minimize the risk and mitigate potential damage. To get started, we need to talk about Windows updates. We only want to use updates that were officially released by Microsoft. While unofficial service packs sound great, there is a risk that they may contain malicious code, intentionally included or not. The safest approach is to only use updates officially released by Microsoft. For a clean install of Windows Vista, install the prerequisite patches to repair the Windows Update feature, then fully update the system. This process can take a few hours to complete. After the initial round of updates has been installed, check for updates again, and install any additional updates that are found. Repeat this process until no more updates are available to install. Next, we need antivirus software. The safest approach to using an antiquated operating system is running antivirus software, so we will be using Avast. I get this comment or something similar at every mention of antivirus software, that you don't need antivirus software if you use common sense. Just don't click on anything suspicious, don't pirate software, don't click on ads, etc. There is a school of thought that antivirus software isn't needed if you are sensible and careful enough about what you do online. Only visiting legitimate websites, using official software stores, and policing the links you click on with a degree of scrutiny. You probably won't encounter any malware or viruses. As our goal is to use Windows Vista in the safest way possible, we want to use antivirus software. Then we need a web browser. Bottom line, don't use Internet Explorer. The last version of Internet Explorer available for Windows Vista is version 9, which has not been updated in many years. In a previous video, we identified a number of browsers that work better than Internet Explorer, and put the system at far less risk. The browser identified as best is New Moon. However, it's not the only viable alternative to Internet Explorer. Support for Internet Explorer 9 ended on January 14, 2020. This means that any new vulnerabilities identified for the browser have not been patched, and never will be by Microsoft. To maintain security, we need to replace Internet Explorer. While we are on the subject of web browsers, it is important to review the browser settings, as the default configuration is likely not the most secure. Here in the settings for New Moon, under the Privacy tab and Tracking sub-tab, we want to select Tell Sites that I do not want to be tracked. Under the Security tab, mark Warn me when sites try to install add-ons, and I highly recommend deselecting Remember Passwords for Sites. Use two-factor authentication. For any service that offers it, turn on two-factor authentication. Yes, it is an additional step when you sign in, but it's well worth the inconvenience, especially if you still use Windows Vista. That extra step can be the difference between safe and sorry. Another consideration is that Internet Explorer is still installed and can be opened. So in the Internet options, we want to increase the security setting to high and privacy settings to block all cookies. That way, if Internet Explorer were exploited, there is less chance of a successful attack. While browsers have their own layer of security, they can block access to malicious websites and downloads that may harm your computer. There are a few things we can do to further improve that security. Using a program called Spybot Search and Destroy, we can immunize the browser. This process adds entries to the Windows hosts file. The hosts file maps host names to IP addresses. This can be used to block access to websites. We can also manually update the hosts file. There are many predefined lists that you can just copy and paste. Another approach we can take is using an ad blocker, like uBlock Origin. Like the hosts file, there are filter lists available that you can use to block ads, elements of pages, social media tracking, etc. Avoid using legacy web technologies like Java, Flash, ActiveX, and Silverlight. Many high-traffic websites use elements made with Java or Flash, making it a huge target in terms of cybersecurity. Many Facebook games, for example, ran on Flash. These technologies have been moved away from, and there is little to no need for Java or Flash. So you won't be missing out on much, not using these technologies with your Windows Vista PC. The safest path is to disable Flash if the browser you are using supports it. There are a couple settings we want to change to protect other PCs on the same network as our Vista system. First, we want to turn off network discovery. This will prevent unwanted communication with other computers on the network. Then, we want to disconnect from the network. If you are using your Windows Vista system to perform tasks that do not require a connection to the internet, it is best to disconnect from the network. If there was some potential security issue on the same network as your system, or the system has been compromised, it may pose a threat to other computers on the network. If you disconnect from the network, it minimizes that risk. Another setting we can change for the network adapter is using a security-focused DNS service. In the properties for IPv4, select Use the following DNS server addresses. Then enter the IP address for Cloudflare, which is 1.1.1.1, or the IP address of your preferred DNS provider. To further improve security, the next area we want to explore is with user accounts. Most critical vulnerabilities can be exploited successfully only if the user is logged into an account with administrative privileges. So what we want to do is create a new user account, a power user, so we can still install software, but not an administrator that has access to all of the system internals that can be exploited. We are all set with our new user account. Along with user accounts, there is the user account control. This setting can get a little annoying in Vista, and it doesn't have adjustments like Windows 7 does. I highly recommend leaving this setting enabled. For the Ultimate and Enterprise editions of Windows Vista, there is an included feature called BitLocker. It allows you to encrypt the hard drive. There are several benefits to this, and as we are aiming for security, I recommend encrypting the hard drive with BitLocker. Now to turn on Data Execution Prevention Protection. Data Execution Prevention Protection, or DEP, is designed to prevent the execution of malicious code on parts of the computer's memory that are intended to hold data rather than program code. Malicious code may be placed in these parts of memory during a buffer overflow attack, and an attempt may subsequently be made to execute it from that location. To get the maximum protection from DEP, ensure that it is turned on for all applications. If a particular application becomes unstable with DEP turned on, you may selectively disable it for that application. Then we can turn off Autorun. When Autorun is enabled and removable media such as a USB drive is attached to the system, it may attempt to do some functions specified by the setting. This can cause malicious code to execute on the system without user intervention. Turning this feature off reduces the risk when using any kind of removable media. Next, we can review Windows features that are installed. Several can be safely disabled, especially if the PC does not support that particular technology. A great example of this is the tablet PC optional components. Unless you are running Vista on a tablet PC, this feature can be uninstalled. If nothing else, I recommend uninstalling .NET Framework 3.0 if it will not be used. There is a tool to consider using. It's called the Enhanced Mitigation Experience Toolkit from Microsoft. It's a utility that helps prevent vulnerabilities in software from being successfully exploited. The simple explanation given by Microsoft for how it works is it uses mitigation technologies. As we are trying to be as secure as possible, putting another layer between an attack and the software that's being exploited seems like a good idea to me. Then we want to consider the productivity software we're using. Like operating systems, productivity suites are not supported indefinitely by their developers. While Office 2010 still runs on Windows Vista, it may not be the best choice, as it has not received any kind of security patches in many years. There are better alternatives to this and open source options that pose less security risk. Keep a restore point. In the event the computer does get some kind of virus, malware, etc., System Restore may save you from having to do a full format and recovery. It's a 3-step process. After the virus infects the system, or the malicious code executes on your computer, step 1 is to disconnect from the network. Step 2 is to disable the antivirus software, and step 3 is to attempt a system restore. Note that the antivirus software needs to be disabled first, as it may cause system restore to fail. The next thing to consider is saving some tasks for systems that are currently supported by their developers. Online banking, for example, may not be the best application for a Vista system. If possible, save those tasks for an Android smartphone or Windows 11 system. Anything that's currently supported by its developer to continuously improve security is a good option. I would be remiss if I didn't mention virtual private networks. I'm sure you have seen many and various sponsored ads for VPNs, like this one.
Browsing the internet can be risky business, so why don't you protect yourself and browse anonymously with a hidden IP?
The bottom line is that using a VPN is safer than not using one. These are the strategies for how you can safely use Windows Vista forever. Thanks for stopping by. See you next video.